I recall situations where we pulled up and when the FBI car was sitting like on the side, and I had to like, live through this and kind of look at the good and the bad of it. Living in a nice house and driving nice cars. That, affected me so much because in my mind, he was gone. So it was like you had to readjust as a young boy coming up to a man. You had to kind of, get grist to yourself and understand this is what it is.
I'm Dave Winfield.
I'm Ralph Sampson.
I'm Julius Irving, and we're all teaming up to
Say No to Drugs.
We speak with great concern about the drug problem in America today, but we fail to appreciate or address it for what it really is, the #1 threat to our national security. America is under attack, literally, under attack by an enemy who is well-financed, well-supplied, and well-armed, and fully capable of declaring total war against the nation and its people, as we've seen in Colombia.
Griselda Trujillo Blanco, better known as the godmother of the Colombian drug underworld, the biggest guy from DC, and someone from one of the largest cartels in Colombia. You'd know it would be inevitable that they'd come together.
What else could we do? It's right there. The people that have direct access to the narcotics that you need.
Back then, the district was murder capital of the country.
In the late 1980s and early 90s, it was a lawless combat zone.
An automatic gunfire rang out.
And the crack cocaine epidemic helped fuel it.
People lining up 2 to 3 deep around the block to buy drugs.
At the center of it all, Rayful Edmond.
Edmond ran the biggest crack and cocaine distribution ring in D.C. history.
I seen somebody at that time that was bigger than life.
At one point, he made up to $60,000 a day.
I came home in 1989, and the man that was there that made sure I was all right was Tony Jones.
I think one of the most important things is I'm originally from Florida, right? So I moved up here in the late 80s, and that was like just a huge culture shock for me, right? You coming from like palm trees and brightness and clean, or what you consider clean, you know what I mean, to like concrete. One thing that stood out to me that I learned eventually is just that DC was its own.
It was a time where money was just easily accessible. We saw fancy cars all the time. We saw, when we went to school, everybody had to be freshly dressed, the nicest clothes. Everybody was our uncle. The younger generation now, they say unc. We were saying the whole word uncle and aunts.
They dressed their own way, they talked their own way. They just did not care about what the rest of the country was doing, especially at a time like for blacks, when we were first starting to kind of really get our shine on television outside of sports. Music is starting to kick in. We're starting to get our element on TV, starting to see us more and see these things. And a lot of that was coming from New York, right? That was so New York was teaching the rest of the country how to talk, how to dress, how to do these things. And DC, the influence was not there. We had our own way of dressing. We almost did the opposite on purpose.
The only time we could obtain that was when we got old enough to get a summer youth job through the Mayor Barry program. And we soon found out that wasn't enough money to live the kind of lifestyle that we were seeing. So, like I said, we were impressionable. So we wanted that. We wanted what we saw our older homies doing in the neighborhoods.
I grew to appreciate, people standing on their own, being something different, and standing on being something different. When you're a kid, you see certain things. You see these cars, you see the lifestyle, but you don't see all the layers behind it, right? But you start to remember things. You remember somebody give you $100 when $5 was a lot of money and these things like that. So, I remember it being a bragging point, right? Like somebody be like, oh, my cousin is this, or my cousin hang with Rayful. That was just that's how big it was. Rayful's story was bigger than life at the time. He was just the name that you would hear, especially after he got locked up and the news started hitting things of that nature. My man Big E is the one that kind of put me on Antonio and was and I had heard the name, but he was like, no, I think you need to really do your research on who Antonio Jones and what he meant.
That militant lifestyle in the streets, in the neighborhoods, of course it would seem crazy to some people, but we came up impressed by that, and we just thought we were untouchable because of that. Our big uncles would, we would protect it, would have us wearing bulletproof vests. In my career, which I don't think was meant for me to continue in that lifestyle. You know, I got away with some things, but karma caught up with me, and you know, I got shot at 21. So that took me all the way down because I was paralyzed from the neck down. So you know, that time I spent in the hospital recovering from that gunshot wound let me know, you know, I had time to decide, well, you know, this is not the route I'm supposed to take.
So it started at this house right here, right? It had a whole porch on it. It was one of our stash houses. We used to be in there every night. So when we in there one night, everybody ripping and running. So they had already had a contract hit out on us, Metropolitan Police, 5th District anyway. I get caught in the alley one time and I ain't got my hammer on me. Everybody know what a hammer is. I didn't have that on me, so I said, oh, they're the police. So they running and ripping. So I ran down the alley because I didn't want to go back in the house. We had too much money and too many, you know, weapons and stuff like that in the house. So when I hit the alley, I jumped through that yard right there. I knew the lady that owned the house. I tried to get in the tree, but I said, dang, I can't get in the tree, they right here. So I had to climb up the pole. The reason why I went up the pole is because I'm empty-handed, so I ain't gonna just let them get me like that. So I slid up that pole right there and stayed up there. And they looked all around. They was in the alley for about 15, 20 minutes. They never looked up. And I was up in them wires right there with them telephone poles. I was right there. Some of these buildings was abandoned, right, back in the day. So what we should do is, we had boards on them, and we'd get the guys that do carpentry work, the guys who give me the keys, all them, we'll put hinges on the wood so you can think it's locked, but we just open it up and it'll come right open. We had one side of the floors tore out. So if the police coming in to chase us, if they don't know which building they're in, we knew which building we was in, so we'd run on the right side of the hallway. If you run on the left side of the hallway, you're gonna drop all the way down to the basement. So we kept that. Then we had up at top, we had big ropes hanging down from the skylight. And we used to jimmy up the ropes, get on the roofs, and we had houses down on that end, so we'd come out on one of the other houses if the police down in here. And we had a big shootout one time with the police right in this alley right here, because we used to keep the alley booby trap. We had wires, we had refrigerators, we had washing machine, anything was big and bulky to stop anybody from coming through the alleyways. All in all, it just was one big picture. And we just, did what we had to do.
I'm gonna say, I would say probably just the inner workings of the Rayful family and the organization. You think he was this huge figure, right? Even on a national level. And you just think, it's the aura about him was special, but you also see why, nothing ever happened to him, why he was never touched, how this operation was able to get to the size that it was. And, we do all this research and it always come back to this guy right here, that he was a protection, that he was respected on all corners of the city. And, he came through and kind of cleaned up shop. And as soon as he did that, Rayful's money just started piling.
I've been knowing Ray since he was a little young kid, right? They're much younger than me. So me and his older brother, Melbo, we like this. We still like that today. His uncle was an older guy that when I used to be around Orleans Place in the 70s, he was one of those kind of guys you just couldn't mess with. I mean, he was a laid-back guy, but if you get him wrong, you're gonna see something that you never wanted to see. And I done seen him in action a lot with his hands. You couldn't do nothing with him, So my relationship with the uncle, it made my relationship with the other half of the family even stronger because he was one of them guys that protected us when we was kids, and a lot of other guys, I can't remember a lot of them, because I'm getting old too. The relationship with Ray, it was like when we started together, all of us, we did our thing, but I had got into a situation uptown, one of my partners, we was up on 9th Street. He caught a case, and when he went in, I went to Ray and say, look, I don't have nobody to watch my back like I really want to, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come home and dig in. If it's all right with you, this is what I wanna do. And when I told him that, he said, man, shit, whatever you wanna do is all right with me, Slam. I told him, I said, let me run the show, let me do what I wanna do, and I'll show you better than I can tell you. So during the course of that time, it was like a lot of guys running off with money, doing a whole lot of things that they shouldn't do. When I came around, I made sure all that stopped. But you know, they always say, what's the difference between a boxer and a knife pusher? Knife pusher, make sure you get the point. So that's what I did. I made sure they got the point. Basically, I used to watch a lot of military stuff, but you know, my brother went to the service, man, in the 60s. And by him being a part of that military scene, he always taught me how to hand-to-hand combat. He taught me to pay attention to the small details. And that's what I did. I made sure that everything that I seen or done, I try to make him proud of me every time I made a move, you know? Yeah, this house in particular, yeah, I used to hide in this house on the inside. It was abandoned then. Oh, yeah? Yeah, I used to get the dude, give me the keys. I would give him a certain amount of money a week. He working on it in the daytime. He just tell me don't be in there in the daytime. So I always come in at night. I used to use it for one of my surveillance spots. I had spots all over the whole neighborhood. They never know where I was at. So that's what was good about me. I stayed out of the way. I was always behind the scene, not in the front of the scene. It was this block right here, it was just so crowded, man. There was so many people around this block here, man, it didn't make sense. It's like you really couldn't drive through here because it was just cars double parked, people getting out, the young girls hollering at some of the guys that work around here. Times was just was money, man. Everybody was getting money. Yeah, back then, hair salons was making money, everybody was making money because when they get the money, they looking out for the girls, looking out for the women, making sure they look nice. But the traffic around here, one day we came outside and it was so many people out here. And I looked at my partner back then at the time, and the first thing I told him, I said, man, we have arrived. And we would run out of the stuff so much, we had to have constantly get our people to bring more stuff, you know what I'm saying? Because we couldn't supply everybody like that. We just had to keep coming, keep hitting, keep getting money.
Verdict today in the Edmond drug ring trial in Washington. 24-year-old Rayful Edmond convicted of running a $2 million a week cocaine crime outfit in the nation's capital. The one-time schoolyard basketball star faces a mandatory life sentence now. 10 co-defendants, including friends and relatives, were found guilty on related charges. Security surrounding the trial was unusually tight. Names of the jurors were kept secret even from the judge and lawyers to guard against possible reprisals.
I've always been strong when it comes to anything. If I can't control it, if the judge give you 20 years, 10 years, 5 years, you got to do that time. That's the reality of it. I had life without parole twice. They took it from me, took me back to court, gave it to me all over again. That's me, Rayful, and Tony Lewis. They gave us life all over again. Everybody else got 27, 25, 24, whatever have you, but they kept me with the life and kept us three with the life. So my inner strength was always my mother. I always thought about, my mother would never want me to break weak. My mother would never want me, I just never want to have my mother look at me in the wrong direction. You know what I'm saying? That's always been my strength, my mother. Even when she passed, I have not shed one tear today. When I was in the streets doing what I was doing, I didn't have a problem with any of it. See, I'm one of them guys, I ain't never been scared to die. That's how I grew up, that's how I was. That was my thought process, So basically, man, now, I'm older. I got to think of my grandkids, my great-grandkids, and, my children, and my wife. I just got to keep my mind right, you know what I'm saying? So I don't condone any of that negativity. I stay away from it. I keep it away from me. And I'm just living, man. I'm just happy to be here.
Well, from a cautionary tale, it's like, the youth today, you have to kind of meet them where they are. They don't really want to hear prison stories. And I've learned that recently. They want to know what's going on. They want resources. They want to know how they can get some money. They want to take shortcuts, and you have to know how to check them. You have to know how to let them know that, look, this is not an easy process. There's no shortcut to everything. You have to be consistent in their lives. being cautionary, you need to let them know, look, there's going to be consequences to what you do.
America has done a number on black people. You know, you grow up putting your hand on your chest and saying, you know, your Pledge of Allegiance, and you think, you know, the government is, you know, the top and a place of honor and things like that. And it is supposed to be, right? But you start to learn that, you know, through redlining and things, that black people just put up against so many walls, right? And so pushed into environments where they had to survive, where stress levels are high. Like, what is it like, you know, not being able to eat and not knowing where money's gonna come from? That just puts a stress on people, where people have to go and do things that they probably wouldn't do, right? When you get pushed against the wall, you gotta find a way to shine. So that's why it's glorification on the hood. People wanna be from the hood. They wanna act like they poor and don't have money and stuff like that. But that came from the pressures, like, everybody wants to be proud of something, right? So as the people that's come from these neighborhoods, they want to be proud of something. They want to stand out, right? And so that's why you might start selling drugs. Like, I want to live like the rich and famous. I want to see that. I want to touch that, right? I want to be proud of something. You know what I mean? And so I think my biggest takeaway is that, you know, we're survivors, but yeah, the country's done a number on us, from dumping drugs in certain places, being involved in certain things, and being, you know, racist against us has put us in some predicaments. We've survived, you know what I mean? We've lost a lot of people, but that's the biggest thing I've seen. And it's one of the reasons I wanted to get married. I wanted to have kids so I could provide guidance and, like, put them out into the world, and hopefully, you know what I mean? I guess we got to start with ourselves, man, because nobody else gonna help us. That's what I've learned.
Because a lot of these young kids nowadays, they 15, 16, 17 years old, shooting people, catching all these cases. But their parents is going through that mental stuff too. They need to be talked to. So now, you know, I'm in a position now where I work with a council member, Juanica Fisher, in District 2 in Hinesville. I'm a senior liaison for her. She was one of the persons that had vision to allow me to be a part of something, you know what I'm saying? And she took a chance on me because she gives everybody chances. So now I be in spots with the mayor, the governor, all types of people, you know what I'm saying, that I would never even be able to be in a room with. You know, some of the majors and the captains and the lieutenants in PG County Police Department, I'd be everywhere with them, you know what I'm saying? The coffee shops and all that stuff, you know what I'm saying, because I changed my life. My life is in a good place right now. So I want to touch on that by saying that everybody deserves a chance. I got mine, and I'm trying to make the best of it.
I didn't foresee in a million years that he'd be out here moving in the direction we moving in. What you see is what you get. I mean, that's the game. That's the rules. You're gonna be in this life, you know. That's the rule book.
Well, it's kind of funny because early on when we were filming Antonio, I was listening to his story, and he said he's a protector, and that's what I feel as though I am by nature, is a protector, and in my line of work, that's what you have to be. And as I approach a client, my whole thing is just not the physical aspect of security, but my mindset is that I'm here to protect you physically, emotionally, and financially.
Pay attention to the underlying story. Recognize character, because that's what makes a man. You go play by the rules, and you're gonna be all right always.
It's a blessing to have him, you know, home, obviously, but to be positive in a good mind state and just being a family guy that he is, and it's a beautiful thing.